Andor is packed with details, and so many of those little things I missed on my first watch through of episode 9. I'm going to walk through all of them, especially with this scene, because I think they're doing something really subtle with how they lock the ISB out from being able to mute Mon Mothma's speech. Did you catch this? They added the Gorman singing under the title. It's my people today, it's yours tomorrow. Our episode opens with the senator from Gorman being arrested, obviously for speaking out against what's been happening at the Gorman massacre. Everything is trying to be spun, everything is trying to be controlled, and anyone that speaks out against the narrative being told by the Imperials, by the Empire, is going to face repercussion. We start this way because it heightens all of everything that's going to happen the rest of this episode. It is a problem to speak out. It is a problem to stand on the Senate floor and to give a speech against the Empire. There are consequences to these actions, and we see that right from the opening sequence. And then it's Bail and Mon Mothma having a conversation about what they need to do.
I need to make a speech tomorrow.
They'll never let you take the floor.
I've seen you work miracles before.
Mon Mothma and Bail Organa have been working for years to get everything in motion. Yavin 4 base is in preparation, but things aren't ready. They're not ready for the rebellion, but they're never actually going to be ready. They're just going to have to move forward. I do think it's really interesting that they mention these bugs that are hidden, and we find out eventually that Bail Organa's team that he has for Mon Mothma is compromised. And it makes me think, how deep does the deception go? How much does the Empire know about the plans of Bail Organa, about his people? It makes me think it's still just surface level, because obviously the base isn't known about. Those types of things have not been known to the Empire. But we can just see clearly in these scenes the fear in Mon Mothma's place, but the resoluteness that she has to speak. Even after seeing the senator from Gorman be arrested, she still stands up and says, listen, I have to say something. I can't walk away from this. I have to speak the truth of what's happening on Gorman. And history is filled with people exactly like this. People that are unwilling to back down in the face of great oppression. This is why it's so important to understand and know the truth, not just take what you've been told. Go deeper than that. Don't just take the article or the thing on Twitter. And I know this isn't just about today, but I think this is part of the issue that happens always, is that we are so quick to believe what we want to believe. We look for confirmation bias. We want to believe a certain direction, and so we're going to find anything and everything to back up that thing that we already hold. This is so true in the Star Wars universe with Star Wars fans. If you didn't like the prequels, you can find people that didn't like the prequels and their reasons. If you like them, you can find people that love them and cheer for them. Same thing with the sequel trilogy, and so on and so forth. Maybe the only exception is the Acolyte, but let's move on from that. But I think as they're setting this all up, these first few opening scenes just set this stage. I love that we're seeing the impact the day after the Gorman massacre, and now this domino is going to be the first to fall that leads to the rebellion. And that's kind of the whole point of this episode. Even the title of it is Welcome to the Rebellion, bringing in Mon Mothma fully, as she's going to need to escape after her message on the Senate floor. Cassian's getting an all-season pass made for him to be able to get in and out of the Senate, which kind of seems ridiculous, and he responds with, I'm done after this. And it leads to this back and forth between Kleya, where Kleya has some really important things to say, and I think she hits the nail on the head.
You were a witness to the Gorman massacre. One would think there'd be no stopping you. The senator you'll be saving is about to risk everything, putting a voice to the atrocity you just survived.
When have I not come through? I need to start making my own decisions.
I thought that's what we were fighting for.
So what is the problem? What is really going on here with Cassian? We're going to see it later in the episode where he gets back to being with Bix. He just wants to be with her, but I think something broke in him at the Gorman massacre. Something that he saw, I think, has led him to think, hey, I can't do this anymore. And really, I believe what it is when he's there, he's standing there, he's seeing the lengths that the Empire will go just to mess with the people of Gorman, just to get what they want, and they will accomplish all that they set out to do there on Gorman. They're going to slaughter all of those people. They're going to set the mining equipment. They're going to instigate everything so that they fall into the trap, just like Cassian was able to watch it all happen. And then he sees the ruthlessness by how they're not just trying to get them to be upset. They want to annihilate them as they send out all of those KX droids. And so Cassian comes away from that experience realizing the real true might of the Empire. It's not to say that he hadn't seen it before. He's seen what they've done. He's seen what they've been capable of. But this was different. This was brutal. This was horrific. And it was just so evil. Everything that happened there on Gorman was calculated and planned evil. And Cassian realizes, I don't want to be a part of this. I don't think there's a way to win this fight anymore. This is the struggle Cassian's been having since day one. He's looking out for himself and those he most cares about. That's what he wants. That's what he wants to preserve. He's not really in it for saving the galaxy and just sticking it to the Empire anymore. That's not enough because things have changed. But there was something that was done that I think could be easily missed in these opening scenes if we don't just pause to talk about it. Because there's conflict happening in both of these main characters, in Mon Mothma and in Cassian. And the camera is giving us hints at that. There's no wasted camera movement. There's no wasted scene. There's nothing that is wasted in Andor. And so when we get these opening scenes with the camera lingering on Mon Mothma by herself, lingering on Cassian by himself, it's trying to just heighten and push and further this angst and anxiety and pressure that these characters are feeling. Mon Mothma with the weight of the galaxy on her shoulders as she's going to step into the Senate room, and Cassian with the weight of the rebellion where he's deciding now to walk away from it all. Both of them have very difficult things that are carrying with them throughout this episode, and we're going to pay attention throughout this episode how their demeanor and attitude and actions begin to change. The ISB is closing in as they're listening to a bunch of different senators, and Mon Mothma's is the one that they've found. It makes me interested to know when Bail Organa found the listening device in his office, it doesn't seem like they removed it, but they probably left it in place. I think this is the better tactic to actually take. Leave it there. Once they know it's there, you can feed false information. But anyway, Mon Mothma quickly smashes the bug. This puts a target on Mon Mothma. They're wondering what's happening, what has gone on. Mon Mothma heads outside to practice her speech, and Luthen finds her there.
How did you know I would be here?
Erskine Samaj works for me. He wanted to tell you himself, but here we are.
And she now is doubting everything and worried, and she mentions Tay Colmer. She remembers how quickly Luthen had kind of had him taken care of because he was a risk, where Mon Mothma thought that they could work things out. Obviously, we know Luthen is probably correct, and Mon Mothma is unwilling to trust Luthen at this moment. She's wondering who she can trust. She's in a tough place. In my first watch through of this, I was kind of like, well, why? Why is she so upset about Erskine? Why is she so upset at Luthen? Doesn't she see what we see? And I had to take a moment to step back and to put myself in her shoes. Everything is closing in. She knows the risk that she's about to take. She's under immense stress, knowing that her life is about to change forever. When she gets up in the Senate and says what she's going to say, she needs to run. And now she's starting to find out the night before she has to do this, that Erskine, someone who she's trusted, hasn't been fully honest with her, and that she's supposed to then just rely on Luthen, who is seemingly, from her perspective, just trying to save his own butt. This is showing the messiness and the challenge and the difficulty of secrets and lying and having to keep an eye on everything. I also was wondering, how would Luthen come to know that Bail Organa's team is corrupted? How would he have that information? How would he even know that there's a team going on? This kind of just shows the network that Luthen has is even vaster than we think. And obviously we know about Lonnie in the ISB and him probably reporting all kinds of things, especially things like this that are of high interest, high value, and high need to what's going on. I do find it mildly hypocritical that Mon Mothma is so frustrated that he's been lying to her this whole time over these past 2 years. Yet she's lying to all of the people who are close to her. She's been lying to her husband. She's been lying to her daughter. She even brokered a wedding for the sake of the rebellion and not telling anyone the real reason behind all of it. I get that she feels personally betrayed by someone really close to her, but she has to at least see a little bit of the hypocrisy that she's been holding this fake life to. This is what it costs. And I think this is what she's realizing more and more, is that you can't really have true relationships. You have to cut yourself off from everything for the sake of the cause, because it's these relationships that you put your hope and your trust in that can end up burning you in the end. And I don't mean to be harsh here on Mon Mothma, but I think that it's just this little interaction here just still hasn't set well with me. Maybe you have some thoughts as to why it is. I understand she's under pressure. I understand she's tired, but I don't know. I'm trying to make this one fit. And maybe as I rewatch this through and we have this conversation of this deep dive into this episode, we'll see it a little bit more clearly. But I'm just kind of struggling with why she would dismiss him, why she wouldn't come to terms with what he's been doing, that he's really truly been keeping her safe. He's been doing things behind the scenes, things that she doesn't even know about, that have kept her high and clear from all of this other mess. He's even the one who found the listening device just even most recently. I get that trust has been broken, but at what level and at what cost is her dismissing him today, this day of all days, where she's going to need more help than ever before?
They're gonna find you, Luthen.
You act as if we had a choice. Eventually they'll hang us both. One thing. We set that course the first time we met.
Speak for yourself.
Cassian's kind of saying, I make my own decisions. And Luthen's like, really? You've done all these other things and they really haven't been your decision. We've known from the day we met that they're going to hang us both. We know how this ends. Again, back to the video I made a few days ago, if you haven't seen it, looking at Luthen and Saw Gerrera, particularly this idea of realizing that you're dead already gives you a freedom to act and do the things that need done. Cassian is still operating under this assumption and idea that there is a future, there is an end to all of this. And I think he's more concerned that Luthen could be caught and then they lead back to him than he is anything else. And he asks the question then, well, what happens if Mon Mothma doesn't make it out? And Clea responds with, it all comes down. Why? She knows everything. She knows about Luthen. She knows about Yavin 4. She knows where the money's coming from. She knows about Bail. She knows about so many different things. And then if the trail goes from Mon Mothma to Luthen, there's going to be problems. And who does those problems end up leading back to? Cassian, and eventually to Bix. So he knows and sees the reality that Mon Mothma is the central figure of all of this, even more than Bail Organa, even more than him, because if that were the case, they'd be concerned about getting Bail out. But they don't really have connection to Bail. Bail probably doesn't even know about Luthen. Luthen has really only been working with Mon Mothma. Bail is involved in other ways in the rebellion, but it would make sense that Bail and Luthen and Mon Mothma would not all be in conjunction or at least aware of one another. So I know we're going to find this out really quick, but I love that scenes like this happen. And I just want to point this out because I was watching the episode. The next scene that comes up is everyone walking into the Senate. We're seeing all of the transition going through these metal detectors-esque kind of thing, the security gates. And we zoom in on 3 individuals, random people. We never really get random people. Everything has a purpose. And I'm sitting here going, what is going on? What is this? Now, we're going to find out in just a brief few moments that this is the team that Bail Organa is going to talk about. But I love that we see it first. I love that we get shown it first. There's an intrigue, there's a hook, there's a wonderment, there's a tension that gets built without us just jumping to the scene where Bail Organa is going to lay out, hey, there's going to be a team of 3. You're going to go to this gate, you're going to do this thing, and here's what's going to happen, right? We're going to get the exposition of that, and we're going to see them on the comms, we're going to see them working together, fine. But I love that we get shown it, even if it's just 30 seconds or so before we get to everything else. Little hooks like that pull me into the story and keep me engaged, keep my brain working while watching this show. And that's what I love about Andor in so many ways, is you have to pay attention. Your brain has to be thinking. This isn't just mindless entertainment.
There are rumors that prominent senators may try to challenge the imperial narrative on Gorman.
I've just been told the morning agenda is set. The chair has no intention of letting any of them take the floor.
One of the things that I thought was an underrated part of this entire episode is just showing how the back room of the ISB is trying to control everything that is being seen and heard on the floor. They're hearing about the agenda beforehand, they're talking and hearing the rumors and trying to decide what they might need to do. They're going to try to take drastic action a little bit later, but it's these things that really start to build an understanding of how controlling the Empire is. It's not just about propaganda. It's not just about what gets shown on the TV. They're curating everything. They're letting people on or off the floor based on what they already know they're going to say. They're doing it all in such a way to keep control. And then we hear the breakdown of the plan from Bail Organa, and he kind of has a funny line where he tells Mon Mothma to go tear the shit out of the Senate. I kind of chuckled. I even wrote down, ha ha ha. But there's 2 ways to look at this. One, I don't care about the cursing, right? I don't care about whether or not they curse on the show. This isn't a show geared for children, and kids aren't watching this, so I probably am not worried about that either. But it does break the immersion just slightly for me. It might not for you. I think there's other words and other ways and other things to use in the Star Wars galaxy that make it feel just a little bit more Star Wars. There maybe even be an Alderaan-esque type of term that could have been used. I don't know if there is. You can let me know in the comments down below, because you guys know that kind of stuff, and I'm just kind of a regular Star Wars fan who likes to make videos and talk about all of these things. But I don't know, it wasn't a deal breaker. It's not a big deal, but it's one of those things where it just is like, was it really needed? It doesn't really fit in my mind. While I'm a huge proponent that I do think Andor fits Star Wars, there are little points and little pop-ins just like this that I could see and I'd be fine with if they just didn't have it. The music begins to pick up as there are senators who are allowed to speak on the floor and basically stirring the pot, pointing out how Gorman has been a problem for a long time. It's a brewing pot that we should have expected to happen. There were signs everywhere, blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah. They're just trying to sway everyone. This is the way that they're going about it. We also see Bail's team, and we find out who the ISB spy is. She tries to call in, all the while Mon Mothma is standing, waiting to take her place. The music is swelling and picking up. The tension is rising. We know everything is about to go down. The ISB agent decides, hey, I'm caught. I'm going to take out this other guy, take his weapon, shoot him. And then we get to a scene that you might overlook, but it's the red tape that has to be done to get Mon Mothma to the floor. Other senators are yielding their time because they were allotted time based on the agenda, and so they have to yield their time to Bail Organa, who's going to then yield his time to Mon Mothma, and that's how they're going to get the senator from Chandrila up on the Senate floor to give her speech.
I believe we are in crisis.
What are they doing?
The distance between what is said
Shut it down.
and what is known to be true has become an abyss.
I think I'm going to give a full breakdown on her speech at another time. It's just too much to go over. I think so many good moments in that. But I just want to point out maybe all the other things that are happening around as she's giving this speech. We have Cassian working his way back to her door. We have the other two from Bail's team showing up, and the one ISB spy being like, hey, where'd that other guy go? Trying to play off that she actually knows. All the while, there's some suspicion that's going on there. And then there's a little moment that I think is really, really important and just shows how all these pieces are starting to fall into play. And a lot like what has happened in other episodes, if you're not paying very close attention, you're going to miss this. So what's happening while Mon Mothma is getting up there? They're trying to shut down the feed. ISB headquarters is telling the security there, hey, shut down the feed. Don't let it get out, get it over. And when they go to the control panel and hit the buttons, error, it's not opening. And they say, hey, yeah, we fixed it. It wasn't working all year, and we got it fixed as per protocol. And then he's like, well, where's the stick to override it? Well, we took that up to the control booth, to main security. And then there's this moment where they look at each other like they know what they've done, that this was all fixed yesterday, when they knew that this was going to be happening, when they knew that there was going to be pushback against what the Empire has been doing in terms of Gorman. Now's the time when they fix it? Why would that be the case? Well, it feels like to me that this is kind of a hint, or at least, again, another puzzle piece added where the rebels are doing something, even though it might be a very little piece, all playing together in the overall rebellion. Was this orchestrated by Luthen? Was this someone else? Was this another outside group that just is like, hey, we know that she's going to be giving a speech and everyone's hearing the buzz that the Senate is going to be talking about Gorman today, so we're going to make sure. I don't know who did it. We don't need to know. I just think it's kind of one of those things where, hey, I've got friends everywhere. Is this one of Luthen's friends? Very possibly so. It's one of those things you could just fly right past. And on my first watch, I kind of saw something, but definitely on the second watch, it sticks out like a sore thumb. There's definitely something going on in that scene. But we come to the end of the speech, and Mon Mothma says the quiet thing out loud that the monster coming for them all is Emperor Palpatine. I love the way that they talked about truth being the core problem here, that when truth is kept out, whoever is yelling the loudest ends up winning. And we see this to be true in so many different ways, but in this instance particularly, that's exactly what's happening, that the truth of the massacre is the thing that's being held back from the Senate floor. That is until Mon Mothma has decided to get forward and say something, and as soon as she's done, the power is cut. The music shifts, and here we go. We know that now she must escape. This entire episode for me flew by the first time I'm watching it. It was one of the longer run times, but it just felt like it kept moving and moving and moving. And when I finally looked down to see how much time was left, we were done and we were through. And that was one of the great things about the way they wrapped up this arc, is with this speech and in this moment. And now we have to see what is the reaction going to be. How is Mon Mothma going to get out of this situation? Is Cassian going to be able to come through? How are they going to pull it all off? We have this awesome elevator ride where Cassian comes up to Mon Mothma as she's walking out, saying the magic words, "I have friends everywhere. Then he tries to convince her with all the other things, saying that he knows Vel, he knows Luthen, they were on Aldhani, now they're on Yavin. Like all these things that Mon Mothma should know really vet Cassian well to her. And when the doors open up and they start walking out into the entryway, things get a little bit crazy. They're immediately confronted with the ISB spy saying, hey, she's got a meeting to get to. They're not letting her go. She pulls her gun and everyone hits the deck. All the reporters who wanted some kind of line from Mon Mothma are like, I want out of here. I don't want to get shot. Over this, she claims to be ISB and says that she's arresting Mon Mothma, tells one of the other security guards, who is good for nothing, to call the office and kind of back it all up, get security down there immediately. Well, thanks to the quick thinking, she's accused as being a rebel spy, turns her gun to the side to deal with all of that, and Cassian takes her out. Everyone's freaked. They're not quite sure what to do. So they run away, and Cassian's last words saying, we need 3 minutes. I think this is a great way just to start everything, to show right off the bat, okay, this is going to be brutal. To get out of here is not going to be easy. And Cassian's going to do anything he needs to get Mon Mothma out of the Senate building and to safety. It's always a moment when the title of the episode is mentioned and Mon Mothma is kind of freaking out after all of that. And she says, I don't think I can do this. And Cassian's response, welcome to the rebellion. I mean, this is what he's been going through. This is hard. He doesn't want to do it anymore, but this is the cost of rebellion. This is what it takes. Giving up everything, walking away from your life, sometimes saying goodbye to those you care about and love. Like, how is this going to leave Perrin and her daughter and everyone else that she cares about? How is this going to all go down? She has to run for her life. And she's like, oh, I don't know if actually I can go through with this. I didn't realize it would be this way. And the fear on her face, the shock of everything, this is way outside her comfort zone. Mon Mothma is much more comfortable in the back rooms making deals, walking and talking with other politicians than she is with blasters drawn, ISB agents falling. But then we see the stormtroopers marching through. They are coming to get Mon Mothma, and they're going to have to find a way out of all of this mess. Cassian's able to get Mon Mothma out of the building before they lock it all down, but Cloris, who is investigating for himself, gets caught in the crossfire as Cassian wisely takes him out after hearing Mon Mothma tell him that no, he's an ISB plant and he will not be helping us. All of this just to get Mon Mothma out, and now they race to her speeder where Cassian is going to drive her all the way to the safe house. But before we can get to the safe house, we're back on Yavin, where Vel is going over all the weapons of the new recruits, kind of making sure that everything is in line, and she finds a blaster. Now, I didn't catch this at first, but once we find out who it belongs to, I'm pretty sure that's one of the blasters taken from Narkina 5, because who do we see? We see Melchi. One correction to make while I was editing this is not a Narkina 5 blaster. Those were the DH-17 pistols, as seen here with the picture from Cassian. Instead, this is the pistol that Cassian took off of Cyril Karn because it is a Corpo blaster. And then Cassian gave that pistol to Melchi. You might be wondering, well, why would they do just a brief little introduction like this and then spend the rest of the time not revisiting what they just revealed? Well, that's because they did the same thing with Bail Organa. Do you remember? We just met him real briefly, and then it's a few episodes later where he has a lot more impact. I have a feeling in this next arc we're going to see a lot more with Melchi and Cassian, well, and especially with Cassian because of how this episode ends. But when they get to the safe house, they're not alone. Clea is there, well, and even more, Wilmon is in the back with his girlfriend. They seem to have gotten them off of Gorman, but Wilmon is injured and he needs a doctor, and Cassian knows where a healer is. He needs to get to Yavin quickly. As they're having a conversation, Cassian finds out that he's going back without Mon Mothma in the U-Wing, and Mon Mothma looks at Cassian. She's changed. Remember back to earlier in the episode When Mon Mothma was getting ready to give her speech, everyone was against her. She was brokenhearted, remembering Tay Colmer and all of that. But now she's changed. She's different. She's seen firsthand what it takes, even just a little bit of what it takes to get away from the Empire. And seeing the people that are really risking their life day in and day out in this rebellion. Yes, she's been in danger, but not in the same way that many others have been in. She looks at Cassian and says, "How can I repay you?" His answer, "Make it worth it." And boy, will she ever. But right now, it's back to Cassian and Bix. He's tired and he wants to just spend some time with his love. But that's going to be short-lived, because he's going to tell the plan to Bix about how it's time to go. They're done. They're flying out in the morning. But little does Cassian know, Bix has other plans.
I know you do.
And so Bix leaves. She knows that he will leave the rebellion for her, and she can't live with that. She can't live with that feeling and knowing that he has a deeper purpose. Going back to what happened with the healer, it really has shaken Bix. She believes stronger than ever that Cassian has a very important role to play in the rebellion, and that they will have a chance to maybe get and be together again after it's all done. We know that's not going to happen, though. We know that this is goodbye and that they're never going to see each other again. But this is what was needed to be done. Bix is stronger than Cassian. Bix is the one who ends up being more bought in than anyone else. And I wouldn't have said that starting this arc earlier. Bix was the one who was a mess, the one who was being checked in on by Luthen, and she wasn't doing very well and not being able to sleep through the night. But all those things have changed. She's come around full circle. She sees what needs to be done, and she's willing to do it. But that's not how our episode ends. They've put together the KX unit that Cassian has brought back, and as they're getting ready to put it all together, like, do you want these protective goggles? He's like, no, give me a blaster. Goggles aren't going to do anything against this thing. They power it all on, and we hear the voice of K2SO.
Hello. If I've offended you, I apologize. If not, I'd appreciate you pointing that elsewhere.
There's so many good moments in this episode that I think, and this whole arc, really these 3 episodes that we just got were absolutely flawless, each in its own right, a different facet of this story. And seeing Mon Mothma's arc kind of come to completion here, to see her react to the Gorman massacre, to give her speech on the Senate floor, and then to escape out to eventually speak to those at Yavin and give a message to the whole galaxy that they're going to try to get out, I think is really amazing. It just was so well done. Every little bit of it, like I said, it felt like it raced and raced and raced and raced. And just the run times of these shows have been on point. There isn't anything that drags too long. It all is perfect. There's a few things I really like that they set up here that are going to make this time jump, I think, work a lot better. I think Melchi showing up on Yavin 4 and then the time jump works great. I think turning on K2SO and then the time jump works great. I think there are some things like that that are left better to the imagination than necessarily show us every bit in piece. It does appear, though, at the moment that this is not B2, that K2 is not B2. I know it was a running theory that many people had because it felt like there was such history between K2SO and Cassian by the time we get to Rogue One, and that's still going to be true. They're going to be together over a year's time before we end up at the events of Rogue One. They're going to be together on the U-Wing, and I'm wondering what kind of adventures we're going to see in this last arc. How is it going to butt right up against Rogue One? Because the way that we've said it or been told is that you can turn Rogue One on right after these next episodes. Having said that, I'm not ready for this show to end. I can't believe we only have 1 week left. These 3 episodes a time have really condensed this show down to a month. And I'm really going to be looking forward to probably making videos over the next few months just about Andor as I kind of contemplate and rewatch and rethink so many of these things. If there was something from this episode that stuck out to you that you want me to make a video on, please tell me in the comments down below. You guys have some pretty fantastic ideas, and I would love to hear some of those. As always, my name is Jeremy. This is The Force Fandom. Thank you so much for watching this. I appreciate it greatly. Leave a like on the way out, and remember, the Force will be with you always.